Everyone in Haicheng said that young Master Luis loved his wife more than life itself, and I believed it too. He loved me so much that he schemed meticulously. In the postpartum care center he built for me, he secretly added 2 extra floors. One was for his secret meetings with his mistress. The other was filled with gifts he carefully picked for me. While I was recovering downstairs after childbirth, he would indulge in pleasure upstairs, then come down with a prepared gift, smiling, to deceive me. When I discovered the truth, I didn't cry, didn't fight. I simply chose to leave. A year later, I reappeared as the beloved wife of a powerful tycoon in Beijing, and Luis lost his mind with regret. Chapter 1. As soon as I stepped onto the hidden top floor, level 18, my phone's Wi-Fi signal jumped to full bars. My heart sank. This place was clearly Luis's secret playground. I followed the sounds, stopping outside his bedroom door. Inside, 2 naked bodies intertwined on a king-sized luxury bed. The sight made my stomach churn. What made it even more ridiculous? The nightstand held a framed photo of me. The room was decorated with my favorite Stellaloo plushies. Even the plants in the corner were Shifu begonias, the ones I loved most. Then, I heard their conversation. Lily hasn't been wearing makeup since she got pregnant. You must find it hard to kiss her. Huh? Yeah. A woman's body smells strange after childbirth. It's unbearable. A sharp pain shot through my chest. A bitterness too deep to describe spread through my entire body. When I got pregnant, it was Luis who personally put away my makeup. He told me, "You're the most beautiful, no matter what." When I was in postpartum recovery, I had suggested letting a nurse help me bathe. Luis refused. He insisted on doing it himself. Yet now, "Baby, be gentle. I'm pregnant." The woman turned her face to the side. I froze. Amelia. It was Amelia. Her parents had passed away when she was young. I took pity on her and funded her education. When she graduated, she joined Luis's company, swearing that she wanted to repay my kindness. She even reassured me, "Lily, your husband loves you so much. So many women want to steal him. You need to be careful. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on him for you." And now? She climbed into his bed herself. I clenched my fists, my chest heavy with a suffocating pain. "Luis, did you ever stop to think? While you were sleeping with another woman upstairs, I was downstairs, still in postpartum recovery?" Then, I heard Luis's voice, filled with shock. "Pregnant? How the hell did that happen?" But Amelia changed the subject. "When the time comes, can I stay in Lily's VIP postpartum suite?" Luis gritted his teeth. "You." Forget it. He didn't ask further. Instead, he pushed Amelia's head down between his legs. "No need to talk. This baby needs to go." Amelia tried to struggle. Luis held her head down firmly. "Just be obedient, and I'll keep you around a little longer." Beside the bed, a digital countdown timer blinked. 30 minutes remaining. That was exactly the time it took for him to leave the penthouse, pick up a gift, and come downstairs to lie to me. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had planned everything so perfectly. And then, Amelia started playing new tricks to please him. Their disgusting sounds pierced through my ears, each one stabbing my heart like 1,000 tiny needles. I clamped my hand over my mouth, hot tears streaming down my face and soaking my postpartum clothes. A sharp pain tore through me. The lochia from childbirth gushed out, soaking my pants. I turned around and walked away. On level 17, I expected another betrayal, but instead, I found rows upon rows of carefully arranged gifts. Valentine's Day, Qixi Festival, my birthday, Christmas, New Year's Eve. Each gift box had a golden tag with a short handwritten message. "Baby, the Valentine's chocolates were sweet. Did you like them? Wife, another year together. I'm so happy." These exquisite, expensive, and carefully chosen gifts had been waiting for Luis to carry them downstairs and deceive me. I curled my lips into a cold smile. What a joke. On the right side of level 17, there was a small kitchen. Next to it, a cabinet filled with handwritten recipes. Luis's own handwriting, the recipes for tonics and herbal soups, the ones he claimed he was making for me, with his own hands. Yet now, I know the truth. Every time he said he was going home to cook for me, he was actually upstairs, sleeping with Amelia. I felt like my heart had been hollowed out, leaving only a freezing wind blowing through it. I picked up my phone and made a call. Ryan, Luis betrayed me. I'm leaving, taking the baby with me. Does your offer still stand? There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. Then, a voice, overflowing with emotion. Lily, I'm coming to get you. Chapter 2. 10 minutes earlier, I walked across the entire 16th floor, staring at my phone's Wi-Fi signal. 3 bars, no change. I must have been walking too fast, because soon, both my legs and my abdomen began aching. It was only the 3rd day since I had given birth. My body was still torn, stitched up with over a dozen sutures, but I couldn't care less about the pain. I just needed to find him. The postpartum recovery specialist spotted me, her face filled with concern. Madam, let me get you a wheelchair. I shook my head. No need. Walking in moderation prevents uterine adhesions. Those were Luis's exact words. He had meticulously asked the doctor about postpartum recovery. He had even written it down in his notebook, and then personally explained it to me. The doctor had even praised him, saying, "He cares about your health more than you do." Madam, the elevator is on the east side. The 1st floor has a begonia garden built just for you. The boss said seeing it would make you happy. I endured the pain in my abdomen, climbed onto a table, and held my phone as high as I could. Suddenly, the signal strength increased by 1 bar. I froze. Luis had given me the top floor maternity suite. And yet, he was above me? That was impossible, unless this wasn't actually the top floor. I stopped a passing staff member, acting casual. Hey, how do I get to the top floor? The man, unaware of my true intentions, responded instantly. Oh, the private elevator in the back is for the boss. Then he realized his mistake and abruptly shut his mouth. His face turned pale. In Haicheng, there were 2 well-known truths. 1, Luis controlled both the underworld and the elite society. Anyone who crossed him would pay a price they couldn't afford. 2, you'd rather offend Luis himself than so much as upset his wife. I stared him down coldly. You will not warn Luis. If you keep quiet, I'll pretend this conversation never happened. He nodded frantically, his face ghostly white. So there was a floor above mine. And if Luis had a woman up there, would she be the only one? A chill crept through my entire body. A month ago, I had received a strange text from an unknown number. 18th floor, your hell, my paradise. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. But now, standing in front of the private elevator at the back in trance, I could clearly see the button labeled 18. My hands trembled as I reached out and pressed it. Chapter 3. The moment I disappeared, the entire building went into lockdown. Luis found me in the begonia garden on the 1st floor. The sight of me made him freeze in shock. My shoes were gone, my bare feet covered in mud. His expression twisted with pain. Without hesitation, he scooped me into his arms, wrapping me in his custom-made luxury suit, while one hand cradled my freezing feet. Baby, what's wrong? Don't scare me like this. But the stench of another woman still lingered on him. It made my stomach churn. I threw up immediately. Luis's panic deepened. He rushed toward the examination room, still holding me. Lily, don't scare me. I'll get the doctor to check you right now. I stayed silent. His worried expression, it didn't seem fake. So, a person could truly love me deeply, while still sharing a bed with another woman? The doctor finished my checkup. She needs proper rest, he said. Then he warned Luis. She can't keep bottling up her emotions. Stress can cause postpartum illness. Luis immediately refuted him. Who would dare stress my wife out when I'm here? I had no words. At exactly 9 o'clock, a grand display of blue fireworks lit up the sky. Luis held me tightly by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching them bloom across the sky. Countless words shone brightly. Luis's eternal love for Lily. The fireworks continued until dawn. The entire city of Haicheng whispered about our fairy tale romance. For a moment, I drifted back to a memory. 14 years old, my father's enemies had tried to kidnap me. when they shoved me into a trunk, blindfolded and helpless. Luis held onto the lid with his bare hands, refusing to let go. Even as the car accelerated to 180 kilometers per hour, blood poured from his arms, flesh torn away, until the kidnappers panicked and abandoned the car. I still remember. Luis stretched out the only part of him that wasn't bleeding, his hand. He gripped mine firmly, his eyes burning with intensity. Don't be afraid. I'll never let go. Not in this lifetime. From that day on, we were inseparable. He knew every little thing about me. That I hated sugar in my coffee. That I loved red velvet cake from that tiny old bakery on the corner. That my skin always flared up with allergies whenever the seasons changed. His social media? Full of memories of me. Our friends joked that he was born just to love me. On my 18th birthday, he covered the entire city in begonia flowers. At its heart, he knelt on one knee and proposed. His voice trembled with emotion, his fingers slipping as he placed the ring on mine. He spoke of the future he dreamed for us, a life where we would walk together, hand in hand, every sunrise and sunset. He also said, if you ever leave me, I'll go mad. I'll spend the rest of my life drowning in darkness. So, what changed? Lily? Luis's voice pulled me back to the present. He held out a necklace, a 6-year anniversary pendant. He tried to fasten it around my neck, but I raised a hand to stop him. Just leave it there. His face fell. Unease flickered in his eyes. What's wrong? Is it the design? Damn. I should have worked closer with the jeweler. I'll call them to remake it right now. He pulled out his phone, ready to dial. Bitterness rose in my chest. Why put on this act? Why pretend to love me so deeply, while his heart was already elsewhere? I forced a casual excuse. I've been sweating a lot. I don't want to wear jewelry. Luis slapped his forehead, instantly apologetic. You're right. That's my fault. I wasn't considerate enough. Then, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the caller ID, then declined the call, like a child showing off a prize. He held up his satellite map. Guess what this is? I glanced at it. An island. Yes. See these 3 islands? 2 big, 1 small, close together? I bought them. For you and our son. You should name them. I'll raise our son to be just like me, so he can keep loving you when I'm gone. I smiled. A genuine one. Sunny. May he grow into a bright, passionate son. Luis's phone rang again. Manager flashed on the screen. He rejected it again. Lily, the manager's incompetent. If you hadn't recommended her, I'd have fired her long ago. Just as he said this, both our phones buzzed with new messages. Luis scanned his quickly, then turned to me. Go soak in your medicinal foot bath. Babe, I cut him off smoothly. Go ahead. But deep inside, a tiny, fragile voice whispered a final plea. Stay. Choose our family. Choose us. If you stay, I'll believe you one last time. Luis lowered his head, pressed a kiss to my forehead, then walked away without looking back. Foolish hope. I glanced down at my phone. A message from Amelia. Sister, Luis is here on the 18th floor. Don't you want to see the real top floor? The bold familiarity of her words made me sneer. I ignored her. Until, 10 minutes later, a new message arrived. A photo. A tiny incubator, placed at the edge of the 18th floor balcony. My son was inside. Chapter 4. Come alone! A mother's instinct kicked in instantly. I leaped off the bed. That was my baby. The one I had carried for 10 months. The one I had endured unbearable pain to bring into this world. I sprinted to the 18th floor, my heart hammering in my chest. The moment I pushed the door open, a strong man grabbed me from behind, clamping his hand tightly over my mouth. He yanked my hair, dragging me into the room next to Luis's. Pain ripped through my scalp and abdomen. Tears blurred my vision, spilling uncontrollably. For a moment, I thought I would pass out. The man pressed a button. The glass wall instantly became one-way transparent. Then, he turned on the speakers. Inside the next room, Luis and Amelia lay tangled in bed, completely bare. Amelia, with a flirtatious giggle, asked, if your wife were watching us right now, would you still kiss me? Luis chuckled. tilting her chin to kiss her deeply. A searing pain shot through my chest. I thought of Luis's hands gripping the trunk of that speeding car. I thought of him kneeling in the rain, swearing he would never betray me. The two of them were too immersed in their passion. Luis accidentally knocked something over. A photo frame. My photo frame. It crashed onto the floor, glass shattering into countless shards. Luis froze. For a brief second, his instinct was to push Amelia away and reach for my picture. But Amelia wouldn't have it. She pulled him back, claiming his lips once more. After another round of passion, Amelia nestled against his chest, whispering something in his ear. Luis sighed but smiled fondly, then nodded. Amelia slipped out of the room. Luis stood up and began tidying the place. I watched, my nails digging into my palms. The photos of me scattered around the room, gone. The plush toys I loved, gone. The decorations I had picked out, all packed away into a box. And then, he burned them. My vision blurred. I watched as he took out my favorite begonias, arranged them one by one on the bed. He lit candles, forming a heart shape. My eyes stung. My chest felt like a boulder had crashed into it. Just then, Amelia waltzed back in, her face filled with triumph. She laughed mockingly. He's preparing to propose to me. That's the difference between us. Your anniversaries? They were all arranged by his staff. But when he proposes to me, he does everything himself. I forced myself to stand. Where is my son? She walked up to me and slapped me across the face. Once wasn't enough. She slapped me again and again and again. You dare give birth to Luis's firstborn? My only crime was being born into the wrong family. Luis has always loved me more, but because of your status, he had to swallow his pride and stay with you. Her rage escalated. She picked up a chair and swung it straight at my stomach. I coughed, a metallic taste filling my mouth. My postpartum body trembled, weak and on the verge of collapse. But when I saw Amelia's venomous eyes dart toward my son's incubator, I had no choice. I had to provoke her. I forced a weak, mocking laugh. Luis has only ever loved me. You're just a mistress. If Luis truly cared about you, why do you have to hide like a rat in the sewers? Amelia snapped. She slammed her heel into my head. Then, she grabbed 2 wine bottles, smashing them over me. The glass shattered on my skull. Blood pooled beneath me. Liar! If it weren't for the burly man restraining me, I would have been beaten to death. Luis, save me, under the threat of death. I instinctively reached out toward the glass, desperate for help. But Luis couldn't see me. He simply stared at the crabapple flowers on the bed, smiling tenderly. I almost gave up. At that critical moment, my phone rang. It was Ryan. Amelia's eyes lit up when she saw the caller ID. Ryan. The one from the capital? Her gaze turned vicious. So you're fooling around with another man again? You betrayed Luis, didn't you? Tell me, who is your son's real father? I lied. It's Ryan. Ha 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 ha. I knew it. You filthy whore. Amelia laughed hysterically. I clung to the last shred of strength left in me. If you were smart, you'd let me go. Otherwise, you'll leave Luis mourning a dead true love for the rest of his life. Amelia sneered. Fine. Record a voice message admitting that your bastard son isn't Luis's, and I'll let you go. I did as she asked, but she had no intention of keeping her word. Now, record a video too. What if you try to turn the tables on me later? Amelia grinned maliciously. A video? The man took the order and advanced toward me. My screams filled the room as he ripped my clothes apart. My body convulsed with nausea as he grabbed me and forced me into a degrading recording. I stared blankly at the ceiling, hot tears streaming down the corners of my eyes. If you dare to tell the truth, I'll release this video. Ryan and your son will despise you forever. Miss High and Mighty. I clutched my stomach. Every breath sent a fresh wave of searing pain through me. But the most terrifying thing was, my son's cries were growing weaker. I could only pray that Ryan would realize something was wrong when I didn't answer his call. Meanwhile, behind the glass, Luis was on his phone. He felt uneasy for no reason, a rare flicker of nervousness flashing through his cold eyes. My phone kept ringing, annoyed. Amelia stomped on it, shattering the screen. She then called Luis. Honey, If the child your woman gave birth to wasn't yours, what would you do? Luis's voice was indifferent. Then he has to die. Ha 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 ha. Amelia hung up and, without hesitation, shoved my son's incubator off the 18th floor balcony. No. A heart-wrenching scream tore from my throat as I crawled desperately toward the window, willing to throw myself after him. I couldn't believe it. My Sonny, born under the bright daylight, had fallen into the darkness in just a few short days. The pain was unbearable, worse than any physical agony. Luis seemed to hear my screams. He hesitated for a moment, then dismissed it as his imagination. Lily? She couldn't possibly be here. In the distance, the deafening roar of a helicopter approached, its searchlight sweeping through the night sky, blinding everyone in the room. What's that? Before anyone could react, boom! With a thunderous explosion, the helicopter crashed through the window. Chapter 5. The sudden explosion shocked everyone. Shards of glass rained down on Amelia's face and hair. She trembled violently. Within seconds, Ryan's bodyguards, who had stormed in through the shattered window, pinned her down. Without a word, one of them swung a punch straight at her face. Amelia's blood-curdling screams pierced the air, sharp as a pig being slaughtered. Within moments, the nose she had spent thousands on reconstructing was broken and crooked. She shrieked in disbelief. "Ah, are you Ryan? I'm Luis's woman in High City. How dare you hit me?" The bodyguard sneered. "We'd beat up Luis too. Who the hell do you think you are?" "Lily!" Ryan's eyes were bloodshot as he rushed toward me. He took off his suit jacket and wrapped it around my broken body. He wanted to hold me, but the man who was usually decisive and ruthless was now trembling, afraid to touch my wounds, as if one wrong move might hurt me even more. But I was already beyond pain. My entire body had gone numb. Ryan's burning tears fell one by one onto my hair. I clung to his collar, sobbing, my voice barely holding together. "Sonny!" She threw Sonny down. "Save him!" Luis burst into the room just in time to hear my words. He froze, staring at my blood-soaked body, as if struggling to believe what he was seeing. His voice trembled. "Wife! What did you just say?" "Luis!" Ryan spat his name, each syllable filled with venomous hatred. "I don't have time for you right now, but I swear, I'll deal with you later." Amelia, still struggling on the floor, screamed for Luis. "Luis, save me. Don't believe that bitch. The child was never yours. I have a recording." Lily admitted it herself. Ryan is the father. She's been sleeping around with other men. I even have a video. "Save me, Luis. I'm the one who truly loves you." She raised her phone with all her strength, desperate to show Luis her so-called evidence. Luis didn't even turn around. "Idiot." Amelia froze. The bodyguard who was beating her burst out laughing. Luis's words were venomous, cruel as a blade, and the bodyguard, never one to miss a chance to twist the knife, sneered. "You? A high-class escort. Nothing more than a disposable plaything for the rich. What the hell are you acting all pure love for?" Amelia lay motionless for a few seconds, then suddenly, she laughed. It was a shrill, maniacal laugh, filled with madness and despair. But neither Ryan nor Luis spared her another glance. Ryan carried me in his arms and handed me over to the doctor who had just arrived from another helicopter. But I clung tightly to his hand, refusing to let go. "No. I won't leave. I need to see Sonny safely first. Save him first." Luis was still standing there, stunned, as if his brain couldn't process what was happening. All he did was fulfill a breakup request from Amelia. She just wanted to experience a proposal before they ended things. He had already decided to make her get an abortion, compensate her with $50 million, and cut ties for good. From the beginning to the end, the only person in his heart was Lily. He thought he had protected Lily in every possible way. But now, because of him, she was lying there, beaten and on the verge of death. How did it come to this? Luis instinctively stepped forward, trying to take me from Ryan's arms. But when he saw my body, covered in wounds, ribs visibly dislocated from the blows, he hesitated. He didn't dare touch me. "Get lost! If you come any closer, I swear you're dead," Ryan roared at him. Then, lowering his head, He choked back his emotions and gently coaxed me. Lily, be good, okay? Let's get you treated first. I'll find Sunny. I promise. If you don't recover, Sunny will be heartbroken too, won't he? The moment I find him, I'll send you a message. I finally let go, sobbing as I nodded. The medical team, fearing I might change my mind, quickly took my broken body and carried me onto the emergency helicopter. As the pilot prepared for takeoff, Ryan ordered, "Saving her comes first. Don't return to the capital yet, treat her here." Just before the helicopter doors closed, I saw Ryan punch Luis's gold-rimmed glasses off his face before heading for the elevator to search for Sunny. Meanwhile, the bodyguards, having received their orders, pinned Luis to the ground and continued to beat him senseless. Luis's face was already covered in blood, but he didn't fight back. He just craned his neck toward me, eyes filled with despair, and screamed, "Lily, don't go!" Chapter 6. By the time I was admitted to the ICU at High City Central Hospital, Ryan still hadn't sent me any news about Sunny. He was never someone who made promises he couldn't keep, unless it was beyond human power. The oxygen tube blocked my cries, but the tears wouldn't stop. They slipped from the corners of my eyes, soaking the pillow beneath me. The nurses kept changing my pillowcases. Their eyes were red too, as if they felt my pain, but I already knew. I had a feeling. 18 floors. Even if something broke his fall, a baby not even a month old would barely have a chance to survive. If there was nothing to break the fall, then there wouldn't be anything left of him. And more than anything, a mother and child are connected. The moment Sunny fell, my heart skipped several beats. It felt just like the first time I felt him move inside me. 2 months into my pregnancy, Sunny had been saying goodbye to me. But a mother can never accept her child leaving before her, especially not when he was murdered. It felt as though thousands of blades had pierced my heart, twisting, tearing apart every last shred of flesh, grinding me into pieces. There was a time when Luis had been my safe harbor. As long as he was there, I felt secure. But now, the sharpest knife had been the one he stabbed me with himself. I asked myself, deep down, the person I could trust most now was no longer Luis. It was Ryan. And then, some of my long-buried memories started to resurface. The kidnapping 10 years ago. There were 2 boys who ran after me. One was Luis, clinging to the trunk of the car, being dragged along. But the other, Ryan, he had been the one who jumped into a convertible, speeding after the kidnappers with one hand on the wheel, while the other dialed for help. A man like that, so trustworthy. So why? Why had I only ever seen Luis? I lay still, motionless, yet I could feel the bitterness rising inside me, the exhaustion consuming me. Ryan was here. He would never let the people who hurt me get away. That meant I could finally rest. A dark void opened in front of me, pulling my soul in. I was so tired. I didn't want to fight anymore. I just wanted to go be with my fallen son. "Doctor, the patient's heart has stopped. She has no will to survive. Hurry! Start CPR. Get the defibrillator." Outside the ward, Luis, his face swollen and covered in bruises, pounded against the iron doors with all his strength. Tears streamed down his face as he begged, "Please! I swear, my wife and my son are the only people she cares about in this world. Let me in. I can wake her up." But before he could say another word, Ryan slammed a fist straight into his face. His voice was ice cold, filled with rage and disgust. "Luis, stop testing my patience. If you really want to save Lily, then stay the hell away from her." Chapter 7. The golden 4 minutes of resuscitation failed. The doctors gave up. They declared that I had entered the final moments of life and waved for Luis and Ryan to come in and say their goodbyes. Luis rushed forward first, dropping to his knees beside my bed. At first, he clung to denial, his voice trembling. "Lily, stop messing with me. You're just mad at me, right? You promised me we were supposed to hold hands and live until we were 150 years old. Do you remember?" I did remember. That year, when we took our graduation photo, under the ginkgo tree, it seemed like there was a classmate standing between us. But our hands had secretly reached behind him, intertwining in a hidden grip. Luis had placed 2 ginkgo leaves in my palm, leaves that symbolized longevity, and carefully wrote down each word. We have to live together until we're 150. Whoever leaves first is a puppy. I had been so annoyed yet amused by his childish promise. But those 2 ginkgo leaves, I turned them into amber, preserving them forever. Now, Luis sobbed and screamed, his voice hoarse and broken. Lily, I hurt you and our son so badly. Don't you hate me? Come back and take revenge on me. I won't fight back. I'll let you hit me, curse me, do whatever you want. Take my life if you want. Just open your eyes. I can't live without you. But I didn't respond. Ryan had enough. With a single, furious kick, he sent Luis sprawling. Then, he knelt beside me, gently taking my hand, leaning in to whisper something that made my heart stir. In a soft, glowing light, I saw a little boy with pure white wings, smiling at me. Mommy? Instinct told me it was Sonny. Mommy, thank you for protecting me with your life. But, can you be brave and keep living? The little boy smiled shyly, his dimples just like mine. Because I'm up here in heaven, waiting in line for you and Daddy Ryan. Give me a chance to grow up this time, okay? This time, let me protect you. Mommy! My eyes suddenly flew open. The chief doctor stared at the heart monitor in disbelief. The once flat line had jumped back to life, pulsing steadily. He turned to Ryan and gave him a firm thumbs up. Love truly conquers all. Incredible! This is a medical miracle. Luis saw my eyes open and lit up with joy. Lily, you're back. I thought I'd lost you forever in this life. Ryan's brows furrowed in disgust, unable to hold back. He kicked Luis again. If you have nothing useful to say, then shut the hell up. Luis fell silent. He lowered his head, choking on his words, his voice growing weaker and pathetically humble. Lily, I know it's all my fault. Amelia, I swear to you, I'll give you an answer. She'll never bother you again since she dared to hurt you. I'll make sure she regrets ever being born. Lily, the past few days while you were in critical condition, it's been unbearable. I realized I really can't live without you. Ever since you crashed into my life at 14, I thought we'd grow old together. I never questioned it. Losing you now feels like someone tore half of my soul away. His pitiful, self-deprecating sobs stirred the sympathy of some of the medical staff. Murmurs spread through the room. Is that really the legendary crown prince of High City, Luis? Bruised and swollen like that. I barely recognize him. Doesn't even seem like him. And that's his wife, right? It could be. I heard he's insanely devoted to her. Ryan glanced over coldly, and the whispers instantly ceased. Luis was still sobbing as he begged. I just ask for one chance to make it up to you. Please. I'll give you all of High City. I'll lay it at your feet. I struggled to move my gaze, my cold eyes landing on the man who had been part of my life for 14 years. In just a few days, deep lines had carved into the corners of his eyes. His hair had turned completely white. He loved me more than I had ever imagined. But what did that matter anymore? Luis clutched my hand tightly, refusing to let go. Ryan, afraid of hurting me, didn't pry him off, but his gaze was sharp as a blade, slicing through Luis like he wanted to execute him on the spot. Luis shook his head desperately. Lily, hit me, curse me, punish me however you want. Just don't look at me like that, please. I stared at his grief-stricken face and, deliberately, I whispered in a soft, gentle voice, Luis, you know, I'm just as pathetic. Even after knowing you betrayed me, when you gave me Sunny Island, I still thought about forgiving you. I was willing to give you one last chance. If you hadn't gone to see Amelia that night, I wouldn't have stepped into the hell of the 18th floor. Luis shook uncontrollably, his entire body trembling so hard that blood trickled from the corner of his lips. She threatened to tell you everything while begging me to stay. She pleaded with me, saying she would get an abortion, but she wanted me to act out one last scene with her before we ended things. I burned those things you loved because I felt I had tainted them. When I was setting up the proposal, staring at the crabapple flowers on the bed, I was thinking about you the whole time. Lily, only you. I looked at his pitiful state and delivered the final verdict. You won't say Sunny's name, because you're too afraid to, aren't you? Luis, can't you even leave me with a final moment of peace? At those words, Luis's soul seemed to shatter. He froze, and then, the tears poured down, unstoppable. Finally, with agonizing slowness, he pushed himself up from the floor, his voice trembling. I'll go. I'll leave right now. Lily, please, don't be mad at me. He turned to leave, but with every step, he kept looking back. His gaze never left me, full of longing, regret, and heartbreak. But I didn't want to look at him ever again. Chapter 8. A month after Sunny's burial, the cemetery caretaker called me. He said a man had been kneeling in front of Sunny's grave for 7 or 8 days straight. It had been raining nonstop. Yet he hadn't brought an umbrella, nor any food or shelter. The caretaker hesitated before asking, "Would you like to come and check on him?" My voice was icy cold. "No need. Let him be." The caretaker seemed to remember something and added, "Oh, right before this, a young woman also came to cry at the grave, but she looked like she was dragged there against her will. She had been beaten badly." The moment I heard this, rage exploded inside me. I immediately dialed Luis's number. The phone barely rang for a second before he picked up. His voice carried a barely concealed joy. "Lily!" I lashed out without hesitation. "Take your filthy whore and get the hell away from my son's grave. If you don't find it bad luck. I sure as hell find it disgusting." The other end fell into a long silence, as if he didn't know what to say, but couldn't bring himself to hang up. Ryan handed me a cup of warm tea, his voice gentle as he reassured me. "I'll send people to guard the cemetery. Don't worry." The call finally disconnected. 2 months later, a package arrived, no sender. Inside was a small urn of ashes and a USB drive. Along with it, a letter written in blood. "Sister Lily, Sunny, I'm sorry." Ryan had his men check the USB. When they returned, their faces were pale, foreheads drenched in cold sweat. "It's Amelia." The video shows her being tortured to death. She was crying, begging for your forgiveness, until they cut out her tongue. And with only one remaining finger, she wrote that letter in her own blood. Luis said that if you are satisfied, he hopes you can. No, I cut him off. Ryan glanced at the USB drive and the urn of ashes, raising an eyebrow as if asking for my decision. My cold, unwavering gaze answered for me. "Throw it all away. I don't want that filth anywhere near me. I would never forgive." And I had no reason to. After Sunny was properly laid to rest, I withdrew into silence for a time. Ryan suggested I leave with him for Beijing, a new environment, a fresh start. Here, after all, was still Luis's domain. Ryan had already pulled a significant team from the capital to ensure Luis couldn't disturb me. I agreed. The day at the airport, Luis stormed into the broadcasting room with dozens of bodyguards. Hijacking the intercom, he shouted my name into the speakers. I counted 59 times, but I never looked back. I boarded the plane without hesitation. Some people are only meant to pass through our lives briefly. I loved the wrong person, but I chose to let go, and I would keep moving forward. The road always leads somewhere. Ryan never rushed me to heal. He understood that people need time to peel away from the past. Layer by layer, he never pushed. Instead, he reassured me gently. Even if you still have lingering emotions toward Luis, whether love or hate, it's normal. I shook my head furiously. Ryan didn't argue. He simply rubbed my back lightly, soothing me without words. Then, with quiet encouragement, he said, "Use your eyes, Lily. See the world for Sunny." All the places he never got the chance to see. Chapter 9. After half a year of healing, I finally decided to take a trip. Ryan was nothing like Luis, the blazing sun, always burning himself out, bursting into my life in vivid colors. Ryan was more like the gentle moon, steady, constant, cool to the touch. When I told him I wanted to go on a solo road trip, driving from Beijing to Zhishuangbana, his eyes widened with surprise. He seemed genuinely pleased that I wanted to go out again, smiling as he supported my decision. A journey of encounters. While passing through Lijiang ancient town, I stopped by a small tavern and met a group of like-minded young travelers. We raised our glasses to youth and adventure, then parted ways, each continuing their own journey. Along the way, I met many kindred souls. Sometimes it was a couple in love, sometimes a fellow solo traveler like me, and other times, families with children, traveling across the country together. I had no fixed schedule. If I felt like stopping, I stopped. If I wanted to keep going, I went. One day, I stumbled upon a sea of blooming crabapple flowers. I parked the car and stood there for a long time, simply taking it in. Behind me, I could hear the frequent clicks of a camera. Luis. I had seen him following me many times over the past few days, silently taking photos of my journey. He thought he was being discreet, turning off his flash, keeping his distance, but he had been exposed long ago. That night, during a phone call with Ryan, I mentioned it casually. Ryan's voice turned serious. He needs to be taught a lesson. I'll go see him, make him sign the divorce papers and stop pestering you. I laughed, shaking my head. No need to teach him a lesson. No matter what he does, I won't waver. Then, with a playful glint in my eyes, I added, but you can come, under the golden rainforest. On the day I finally arrived in Zishuangbana, Ryan caught up with me. He stood before me, his eyes deep and unwavering. Lily, happy birthday. Happy 15 years of knowing you. My gaze fell on the rainforest bathed in golden sunlight. Every leaf shimmered, glowing in the warm light. At that moment, the whole world seemed to still. Only the sound of my heartbeat remained. I turned back to Ryan, my lips parting. Ryan, are you? Yes. Ryan seemed to understand exactly what I was asking and answered without hesitation. My eyes widened. He gazed at me, calm, gentle, and utterly unguarded. Between adults, feelings are laid bare. 1 second is enough to see the truth. Unlike when we were young, when we could hide everything so deeply that no one could see. Then, he pulled me into his arms. And in the next moment, like magma finally erupting after being suppressed for too long, Ryan cupped the back of my head and kissed me fiercely. Behind us, a camera lens hit the ground and shattered. We both knew who had been watching, but neither of us stopped. When the kiss ended, Ryan and I intertwined our fingers and kept walking forward. But Luis suddenly jumped out and grabbed my wrist. His fingers trembling, Ryan was just about to land a brutal uppercut. But Luis quickly pulled a document from his bag. A divorce agreement. I took it and scanned the contents. Aside from the necessary assets required to maintain his position, he had transferred nearly everything else to me. I nodded and signed without hesitation. Luis's voice was low, heavy, thick with unshed tears as he forced a miserable smile. Lily, these past few days, I've been following you the entire time. If you had turned around, just once, you would have seen me there, always behind you. His voice grew quieter, but you never looked back. I was greedy for your smile, the one I had stolen from you. And then, when I saw you with Ryan, I saw it again. That smile. I didn't say anything. I just watched as he kept talking, kept crying. Then, he laughed bitterly, wiping his face. I give up. That bastard Ryan said Sonny will be reborn as your child with him. I don't believe in that kind of thing. But, just this once, I'll pretend I do. Be happy. Luis bent down, carefully picking up his broken camera lens. He wiped it clean with his sleeve, then turned and stumbled down the mountain. I watched until his figure disappeared completely. Then, I turned to Ryan, and smiled. I no longer grieved Sonny's passing. Instead, I felt joyful anticipation for his return. Chapter 10. I had completely let go of Luis. Ryan and I built a happy life in Beijing, full of laughter, love, and adventure. We made a promise every 3 months. We would take a trip together. I captured the world through my camera lens, learning to edit videos and share them online. Unexpectedly, I gained millions of followers. Touched by my journey and stories, the pain of the past slowly faded, dissolving into the passage of time. 2 years after our wedding, I became pregnant. 10 months later, with great anticipation, I gave birth to a baby boy. I could no longer remember Sonny's face clearly. He had been so small, always in the incubator. I had only seen him a few times, but I would never forget the bond of a mother and child. And at that moment, I knew. He was Sonny. Ryan understood the redness in my eyes as I gazed at our newborn. Without hesitation, he said, "Let's call him Sonny." At our son's 1-month celebration, Ryan proudly carried Sonny in his silk swaddle, showing him off to the guests. Right then, Sonny peed all over Ryan's custom-made suit. Ryan didn't mind at all. Instead, he laughed and praised him. "Good job, my boy. No stage fright at all." The guests, recognizing the future prince of Beijing's elite circle, scrambled to shower extravagant compliments on Sonny. Ryan soaked up every word, nodding in agreement as if each compliment was music to his ears. It was the first time these guests had ever seen the powerful Ryan so warm, so patient. They were utterly shocked and flattered him even more with practiced ease. I sat to the side, laughing so hard my stomach ached. Suddenly, a waiter hurried over, handing me a beautifully wrapped gift box. "Madam, a gentleman just asked me to pass this to you," thinking it was a present from one of our friends. I smiled and opened it. Inside were 3 things: a longevity locket, symbolizing health and prosperity for Sonny; a piece of amber, made from the ginkgo leaves Luis and I had once preserved in High City; and lastly, 3 rings, each engraved with the years I had refused to renew them. Even though I had stopped accepting them, he had continued to order them anyway. A friend peeked over and immediately recognized it, whispering, "Isn't that the amber pendant you made with Luis when you were dating?" Snapping back to reality, I handed the box back to the waiter. "Return it." I glanced outside. Luis stood by his car, tall yet lonely, his back drenched in silence. Then, he stepped into his familiar Maybach and drove away, disappearing into the night. The waiter couldn't catch up, so I simply tossed the gift box into the basement, letting it gather dust. Later, I heard that Luis's mental state had worsened. He developed bipolar disorder and chronic insomnia, unable to sleep. Night after night, he knew clearly, the only person who had ever brought him peace had left forever. He spiraled out of control, drowning himself in alcohol. Each night, he drank until he blacked out, the only way he could fall asleep. But even in his dreams, the only face he saw was mine. 6 months later, Luis began coughing up blood. When he finally went to the hospital, it was late-stage stomach cancer. A friend sighed. "If he hadn't ruined everything back then, maybe you too could have." I shook my head and smiled. "Isn't this better? The past is gone. The future is ours to embrace." I looked at Ryan and Sonny, and felt nothing but gratitude. We had walked through thorns and darkness, and finally, we had found the light.